My name is Kevin English. I'm Senior Director of Modern Workplace Services, and this is AI-powered productivity explosion. We have AMD here, we have Dell, and we have Google here. I wanted to also introduce my counterpart, Adam Reiser.
So hi, everybody. Adam Reiser, Senior Director of End User Compute here. So I run all the pre-sales partnerships and support for all the sellers in the field that support you all from all things End User Compute. So we're going to start today and have you bring your phones out again and ask you a few Slido questions. Just 2 this time. Matt had quite a few more. But we wanted to see, when does your company anticipate a device refresh to AI PC? Next 12 months seems to be dominant. Okay. Fair enough. 6 to 12, 12 plus. Very good. Great. And already begun from 9%, 10%. Great. Give it another second. And we have one more question, just to help frame the conversation for these gentlemen on the stage. Cool. So about 55% in the next 12 plus months, 26% in the next 6 to 12. We'll go to the second question. Has your company already adopted AI tools like Copilot or something similar like ChatGPT or something else out there? Great. So about 2/3 of you. So great. Awesome. Thank you for your participation. And Kevin, we'll kick it over to you to kick off the panel.
Yeah, before we start, I just wanted to introduce our panel. So Chuck, if you just want to give a short introduction, then we'll go down the line and we'll ask the first question.
Sure. So Chuck Schalm with AMD. I'm in what we call our client business unit. So that's handling commercial client, laptops, desktops, workstations. I work a lot with our OEM partners, designing in the AMD technology solutions, as well as opportunities like this to come out and find out how end users actually are using the technology and what's important for you folks so that we can build the right products for you. So it's great to be here, and thank you.
Thanks, Chuck. Daimeian?
Hi, Daimeian Underwood. I'm a client technologist with Dell. I've been with Dell 23 years, been privileged to help a lot of customers throughout various industries provide solutions to challenging problems.
Thank you. And Saj, last but not least.
Thanks for having me today. My name is Sajed. I look after our partner solutions and services practice here in North America, and I help partners and customers implement and understand our technologies as they see fit.
Yeah, I speak to a lot of resources and a lot of customers on a daily basis. These are the 3 folks that we put in front of them when they want to talk about AI PC and what's real and what's fiction. But I'll start with you, Daimeian.
Yeah, sure.
Tell me a little bit about Dell's purpose-built security features within their AI PC model.
Sure. So a lot's changed over the course of the last couple of years. But I think everybody's very interested to know what a next-gen PC is. So we have the AI PC, which just has an NPU of some sort to handle AI workloads, and then the next-gen PC, a next-gen AI PC, which now our first addition to that category is the Copilot Plus PC. So within the Copilot Plus PC, you have, because the other is going to be Intel, this is going to be a Qualcomm processor. First of all, so they use Pluton for their security system. So not only does it have an onboard security chip to handle the Pluton that's a Microsoft product, but it also has an NPU, which will also give you capabilities for software vendors to write software for the NPU. And we already have a bunch of people doing that right now. A lot of software vendors are teeing that up. Including CrowdStrike, which is a key partner of Dell.
Got it. Thank you. Adam, over to you.
The next one over for Chuck, right? So AMD is in a unique position, being both in the data center and on the AI PC. So how does your specialized hardware on both sides of the house optimize workloads from the PC perspective, and how does that translate into tangible performance and productivity gains?
Sure. Thank you. Before I get into that a little bit, I'm just going to take one step back and kind of look at what the last few years have taught us, trying to put myself into your folks' shoes out there. If I would have asked you out in November of 2019, what percentage of your workforce would be working remote by March of 2020, how many would have said nearly 100% or 100%? I see a few smiles, so probably not too many of them out there. So how can you help expect the unexpected, right? How can you select technologies and architectures that allow you to adapt to changing market conditions. Now, the good news is we know that AI is out there, right? We may not have a full grasp of exactly how we're going to use it, where we're going to use it, what the processes look like, but we know it's coming. And it was great on some of the surveys. A lot of folks are already starting to experiment and roll out in their organization. So AMD is always trying to look forward in the architectures and the technologies that we bring to market that allow you to adapt to these changing situations. In 2011, we integrated the GPU onto the CPU die, right? So we brought that graphics and compute in. And now with the rise in AI and bringing that NPU or that AI accelerator onto the chip, we did that last year. So we've been shipping integrated Ryzen AI solutions for over a year now. So someone with our team was smart enough to know that. Maybe it wasn't me, but they saw this AI revolution coming. So we have products in market now already for the past year. We have a second generation we announced back in spring, and just a few weeks ago, we announced our third generation of Ryzen AI, taking that next step forward. So we developed this technology to enable these AI workloads to work more efficiently. So as you start to experiment, roll those out, you have your CPU for some tasks, your graphics for some tasks, your Ryzen AI, that NPU will be good at other tasks. And we designed that architecture to be very flexible, right? It's got a spatial architecture, so you can turn off parts of that accelerator if they're not needed for efficiency's sake. You can expand it out if you need more performance. Talked a little bit about security. We can actually run multiple AI streams concurrently that are separated on the chip itself from the other stream. So there's security elements in there that can be incorporated. So kind of to summarize here a little bit, we're bringing this architecture together that allows you to anticipate these future needs and be able to expand and deliver on that.
And that's why we bring Chuck out to talk to our customers, because he's obviously an encyclopedia of some of this stuff. But so we have the Dell AMD slant to it. Saj, I want to turn to you from a Google perspective. How does Google intend to compete with the high-powered PC? And sort of how are you thinking about AI in the enterprise?
Yeah, I mean, thanks. That's a great question. Our approach is a little bit different for now. We're looking to do AI. We've been in the AI game for a long time, believe it or not. A lot of our products have had AI embedded in them, previously known as machine learning. But for us, three things are really important. We look at how do we bring Gemini, our version of AI, to as many devices as possible. So how do we make it accessible for a lot of people at various different price points? How do we make it secure? I think that's the key thing. How do we build features that you can turn on as customers, turn off? How do you manage those features? That's really important to us. How do we make sure that the AI embedded is intended to do what it's supposed to do? And lastly, how do we make it useful? I mean, we can always roll out a lot of features. I get requested to test features all day long, but only a handful make it through. So our goal is to make sure that we want to roll out features that are really useful and help your workflows in a daily manner.
Thank you, Saj. That's interesting to tie it back to machine learning. I think we get caught up on acronyms, AI, MPUs, CPU, GPUs, but I think AI we've been using for a very long time, and we've just called it different things.
Different things, right? Yeah. And I think if you look at the slides there, or the Slidos, people are starting to dabble and test. So I'm going to this one over to Daimeian. From Dell's perspective, give us a real-world example where Dell AI PCs have helped a client with customized workflows or tasks from an AI perspective.
Sure.
Give a tangible, I think, so to help the crowd when they're doing their testing.
Sure, yeah. So the great thing about AI is it doesn't benefit just one set of customers. It's everybody can benefit from AI. So if you're talking about healthcare, talking about predicting viruses, that sort of thing, you can predict viruses or things that are going to mutate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also with healthcare, just in general, you can help diagnose, right? You have all this data that you can utilize that they pull into one local place to help with diagnosis. In manufacturing, you can help streamline processes. In transportation, you can monitor trafficking and make sure that the flows are working well and there's no blockages or holdups. And also maybe where there is a holdup, what is the issue and how can we address it? So just across the board, I mean, it's helpful for every industry.
Yeah, I think everybody has seen the innovation, which is great, new PCs and new technology. The use cases are still being developed. And so I think it's very interesting for us to get specific about what you're seeing in the use case. Chuck, I'll ask you something similar, but about the ISVs or the software partners you're using to create the right use cases that will leverage that NPU and that AI PC.
Right. So first of all, as a software developer, right, what do you develop on? I need a platform. I need something to test. I need something to use. So as I mentioned a minute ago, right, AMD has been shipping integrated Ryzen AI solutions for a year now. So there's millions of platforms in market. So first step was, how do we seed the hardware out there to get these ISVs on board? Of course, we're engaging directly with all the large ISVs, whether it's the OS providers, whether it's the ISVs that do like an Adobe or a content creation, engineering work. We're engaged with them directly to make sure that they optimize their software on our solution. Now, I'll say one thing, maybe a little contrary to a lot of stuff said here, right? AI isn't always about the NPU, right? The CPU and GPU actually can do some AI workloads, and you'll find a lot of times in the content creation thing, they prefer to actually use the GPU a little bit. Why? Because it's been around for a while, they've got it very optimized, and their workloads tend to be fairly bursty, right? I'm gonna render something, I'm gonna analyze something, I'm gonna ask a question of a model, and it's gonna spit out an answer, and it executes for a minute or sometimes even seconds, right? Where the NPU is gonna come in is where that efficiency comes in, right? Is driving on AI workloads that are running all the time, right? So they're running in the background, and now you got to worry about power efficiency, you got to worry about battery life. So we're engaging with the ISVs to make sure that the software utilizes the right compute architecture for the right applications. And one of the unique things about AMD is we have AI solutions that start at the fastest supercomputers in the world, the largest cloud providers in the world, and go all the way down to your endpoint device, right? Your laptop PC with Ryzen AI integrated. So we're building that software ecosystem across all the domains in between and actually embedded as well. So I have self-driving cars, they have AMD technology embedded into those applications as well. So we're bringing those software tools, we're streamlining them across the entire ecosystem. We're engaging with the large ISVs as well as open source, right? I think one of the earlier presentations this morning talks about how you have multiple different types of solutions, not just one single solution in your environment, right? So with the open source, we don't have vendor lock-in. So all our tools are open source. We work with all the open source models and development environments to help give you more choice and flexibility in your solutions by expanding those across a wide ecosystem. So you're not locked into any one specific vendor.
Thanks, Chuck. I think it's very important to know that the big OEMs, the Microsofts, the Adobes, the AutoCADs are developing, but sky's the limit, it's just getting started. I know, Adam, though, you had a question for Saj.
Yeah, for Saj, because you guys, again, uniqueness on the panel, right? You guys have the uniqueness of having both the hardware and software. You just announced Gemini, right, and Chromebook Plus. So what can the future, what can the end users expect to see in the future in terms of productivity gains as well as feature gains from Google and these new features?
Yeah, for those of you, the Chromebook Plus is our version with AI, Gemini included inside of it. I'm super excited about Chromebook Plus because it has a lot of security features already embedded inside of it that are AI machine learning driven for many years behind it. You get 10 years of updates, which are awesome. But for me, what I'm excited about is you can consume whatever features you want via the browser, via the cloud, or via on-device via the Chromebook Plus. So you have multiple models that you can choose on how you want to consume that feature, if you want to consume it at all. For me, I've been on a Chromebook Plus for a little while now, and I talk to a lot of customers, a lot of partners like yourselves, and everyone's on different platforms. I'm on Zoom, I'm on Teams, I'm on Citrix, and my Chromebook Plus allows me to, small feature like my video optimizes. The camera will brighten, change itself automatically. My headset, the noise cancellation is not working, the device will turn it on for me. It'll be seamless, right? So I don't have to go in there and futz around with any of the settings. So it kind of knows how I work, and it kind of helps automate stuff. Funny story, my FiOS went down the other day. I didn't know.
Oh, no.
So my Chromebook Plus reverted to my phone, and my phone was my Wi-Fi. So it's small things like that kind of enable productivity. I don't have to go mess around, unplug wires. It just knows how I work and is able to adjust on the fly.
Interesting.
Great.
I have a quick question about misconceptions. I'll go to you, Daimeian. What do you think the biggest misconception around AI is in the enterprise?
Well, I think that it's going to solve all of our problems up front. It's in development still, right? The more data we feed it, the more good data we feed it, the better outcomes we get from that, that we can apply to various challenges that we may face. But I think,
It's not a silver bullet.
it's not a silver bullet. Yeah, it's very helpful and useful. The other thing I wanted to just clarify on that, take this moment to do that.
Please.
But you alluded to it as far as CPU, GPU. The GPU is necessary for large language model building right now. If you are doing a large language model, you're going to need a workstation and put that on the server. You do your small training on the workstation, then upload it to the server, which we have AMD, great partner in AMD for our workstation as well, in the 7875 version. But that's another thing is like, will the NPU, how much load will it handle? It'll handle smaller workloads, smaller language models, you could call it.
Good. Saj, what do you think the biggest misconception of AI is in the workplace?
I think the biggest misconception is that it's not safe. And I think a lot of it has to do with we're not prepared on what this thing can actually do, right? So we need a little bit more training. Big part of it is you have to ask it the right questions. When you're doing a search query, you kind of have to know what you're looking for to be really explicit. So I think we as end users need a bit more time to adopt and adjust and accept this technology that is here to stay, right?
Chuck, what do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking about this morning. I actually thought, hey, man, I should go ask AI what the most misconceptions about AI
That's
are.
cheating, Chuck.
And I didn't get a chance to, so I'll just give my own opinion on that. But it is interesting. I've started to integrate in. So I think one of those is, right, it's a computer, right? We think computers are infallible in the sense that if I'm using a spreadsheet and I type in two numbers, I expect that calculation, it's 100% accurate all the time. So as I look at integrating AI, there's a number of things, and you look at the different processes you need to think through, right? First is data curation, right? I want to train some of these models on my specific company data, right, so that it gets better answers. So how do I curate that data? How do I get the right set of data in there? And probably importantly is a process within your organization to check, do some periodic checks on what's coming out of it. I was at a conference once and this lecturer was talking about how he used AI and he used it to write a bio. And he says, it wrote a beautiful bio of me and it showed all the books I published. And I was looking through it and I said, wait a second, I didn't write that book. And not only had he not written that book, the book didn't even exist. It was some made up fiction and attributed. So you need to have some kind of process and not just take the output of this, at face value, and just have some process within your organization to kind of, vet that out and make sure, especially if you're using it, let's say you're using it as a chatbot in a customer relation, like a telephone, query thing, right? And it's interesting because it could gain information from your customer base, so it has a very good insight into your specific customers. But you don't want it to be saying something gibberish or offensive, and then there's no human involvement there, and then suddenly you have a damaged reputation. So I think the AI journey here is to build, how do I get the right training onto the model so they give the best answers, and what processes do I have in place to ensure that it's giving the kind of answers that I want, not just take it at current, at face value all the time.
Thank you. Adam, I know you have a
so I have kind of the
panel.
flip side of that. There's been a ton of announcements, right, with Copilot Plus PCs last week and Gemini and everybody else. But what else is coming? What's on the horizon that excites you guys the most in terms of AI PC and specifically to productivity gains? I'll start with Chuck. We'll go reverse order.
Okay, go reverse. So I think the AI is an inflection point within the PC. We had the windowed GUI with the mouse. That was a first inflection point. It really democratized access to the PC. It made it accessible to everybody. We had the internet that made information access available to everybody. Anybody with a browser. Could you imagine not having internet access in your organizations today? No email, no social media marketing, no customer outreach, none of that. And I think this generative AI is the next major inflection point that's coming up, and it's going to democratize data access, right? So I've got all this data in my organization. How do I synthesize it down? And that's what AI is very good at, kind of helping you correlate, synthesize that down, and be more productive. So I think there's going to be a major inflection point. Those are kind of the three big ones, in the past. And this is where most of the companies like yourself, right out there, are looking, hey, how do I get in on this productivity boon that's about to come. Again, you may not know all the answers today. That's okay. I think earlier it's a journey, right? Start now, start building, and as you go through the next few years, you'll get better and better at understanding that. I think it also, if I just take my future hat on here for a minute, I think it's going to eventually transform how we interact with our PCs. Again, we've been on the mouse-driven GUI for 30, 40 years now, and it really fundamentally hasn't changed significantly over that period of time. Now I think you're going to start to see some interesting form factors, interesting dynamics in how you interact with your PC device, because now natural language becomes part of it, whether it's speech or even typing, and output in natural language too, not charts or numerical data or that kind of thing. So I think it's going to transform how we use our device and transform the productivity that we achieve with it.
Good, because I'm starting to get arthritis from all the mouse usage over the years.
What about you, Saj? What's on the horizon that excites you?
And I'm super excited about this technology. This is one of the few technologies that we get to see some life-changing things happen. But for me, I look at it as, how do I make my day-to-day easier? How do I make my workflows a little bit more automated? I don't have to click around spreadsheets as much. So that for me is exciting. And I'm already starting to see a lot of that happen today. And I'm just kind of excited to see where that ends up. Also, taking your hat and putting it on myself, the future hat, I think some new form factors are going to come out of this. Computers have gotten smaller, phones have gotten smaller, sometimes, dual screens. I think the form factors and what this technology is able to unlock, health-wise, productivity-wise, I think is really exciting.
I think you know more than you're telling us, Saj. They tell you a lot at Google.
They might, but it's going to cost you.
They have all our
Okay.
data. No, okay.
Daimeian, what do you think?
I'm thinking the same. I was thinking about, how can you take a laptop, because it's going to be very, very useful in the near future, and put that on your hip, because you're going to need that. So, talking about, the form factors shrinking, and also the interaction with your PC getting easier. There's eye tracking, mice experiments that they're doing, that sort of thing, that some companies already have now. But it's only going to get easier. It's only going to get more efficient, only going to get more secure, better, and trusted. So, the use cases, the future's bright for AI, for sure.
Thank you. This has been very helpful. So it's a real thing. AI is real. It's here. I did hear that stat from Matt Fisher earlier about 239 million AI-powered devices this year, when only 29 million were powered last year. That's huge innovation. But security is paramount. We have to know that the data that's on those devices and in those AI models are secure.
Absolutely.
And you have to know how to ask it. This is a learning of mine, using MindSpark and ChatGPT and Gemini and things of that nature. Understanding how to query the AI is probably the largest learning. But with 2 minutes left, it's been very quiet in here in New Jersey, and we're not used to that. So I did want to open it up to the audience for a couple of questions while we have this illustrious panel. So don't be shy, or I'll start calling on people. So this gentleman here, are you doing AI in your practice? David?
Okay.
You're talking about it, evaluating it. I would say you guys are further ahead than most. So you're doing a little bit more than evaluating, but I understand from an endpoint perspective, you're just sort of getting started. Who else is just getting started and toying around with Gemini or Copilot or the others? In the corner there. That's a very good point. So yes, we're getting a lot of requests for generative AI, Copilot, ChatGPT. However, folks don't necessarily know what to do with it. They're looking at it as their last approach to search, which is a Google search engine. And so if you just sort of use it in that fashion, you'll get limited results. But understanding how to query it is very important. Training and enablement seems to be the biggest request we get from our customers, not how many devices or where it's going to sit from a large language model perspective on a server or in the cloud. It is about, how do I train and enable, my talent to use it to get these productivity gains?
Yeah. Productivity gains only comes from adoption, which comes from enablement, right?
Yes, sir. Jacoby's got a microphone for you.
Thank you. Is we sort of go with an idea of what's the next innovation, and it's like we keep cooking and never clean the kitchen.
Yeah.
One of the things that's happening in the background that most of us are facing, I know on my own challenges, is all the data and information and junk that built up over time. Because everybody thought cyberspace was a big warehouse and you saved 17 copies of every document and stuff, which may no longer be accurate. At the end of the day, for the AI to work, we have to get to the unsexy, challenging part of cleaning up what we have. With our panelists, what are the suggestions you recommend of how we take a step back? Because we never set up and thought this was coming. Now our challenge is it's here. How do we clean up to be able to make that next step?
That's a brilliant question. There's a lot of data, right? Data rot. Bad data is just going to feed data into these machines. And so, Chuck, I'll ask you to be brief because we are at time.
Okay.
But what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, so I think a couple quick comments, right? AMD is doing our own internal chat bots, one for development, one for marketing. And that was the first thing they did, is bring together the subject experts on where our data was repository within the organization and help them go through and weed out or select the right type of data to tune these models so they were more specific to our needs. So I think that's the first one. Second one might be to reach out to partners like SHI, right, and their practices to help you go through and do that data cleansing. And then, as I mentioned earlier, right, test it, right? Try, training your models, tuning your models, I should say, and testing it and seeing, are you getting the results that you expect out of that? So I know I have to be fairly brief, but we'll be around. So if you have more questions, be happy to.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to all of you for coming today. Thank you for the questions. All of us will be around all day, so keep the conversations going.
Thank you, SHI. Thank you.